You've seen the title. Are smart rings worth it in 2025? Smart rings have obviously become a trend year over year, and now they're more popular than ever. So when I finally got my hands on one, I was very excited to try it out and see what all of the hype was about. There was honestly a lot of things that I did end up liking more than I thought, and some that I didn't. And we're going to talk about it. So let's get straight into it and talk about what exactly a smart ring is. So a smart ring is pretty much just like an Apple Watch minus the screen. It gives you all of the health data that other fitness trackers or smartwatches do, but it doesn't have that big bulky feeling on your wrist. And that's its main selling point. It's usually going to come with a ton of sensors like calorie tracking, sleep tracking, a pedometer, stress tracking, oxygen tracking, and many more things. Depending on which brand you get, obviously some are going to have different features than others, but the ones I mentioned are mainly the ones you're going to see across the entire field. It's also usually going to connect to your phone via Bluetooth, and then you're going to see all of your health data in an app that they'll obviously provide. And some smart rings are going to offer subscription-based services, which obviously isn't a pro for anybody, but it really depends on what brand you end up getting. The one I used, which is Nova Ring, doesn't have any subscriptions. You just pay the one-time fee. So now we know exactly what a smart ring is, but let's take a look at what it does well and what it doesn't. So starting off with the pros, obviously one of them is going to be the comfort and the convenience that you get from simply having a ring as opposed to a big bulky Apple Watch on your wrist. Tracking all of your health is kind of something you want to be doing in the background anyways, so having to charge something every single day like an Apple Watch, for example, is a hassle to most people. That's exactly where the smart ring comes and takes over. Not only that, but a smart ring is also a lot more discreet and can be used in a lot more situations where an Apple Watch can't. There's a lot of heavy sports where you might not want to damage the screen on the Apple Watch. There's also some places where you might be going in a suit and tie where you don't really want to take your Apple Watch. And finally, you might just want to wear an actual traditional watch. In all of those scenarios that I mentioned, a smart ring would come perfectly in hand. Another thing that smart rings do especially well, and one thing that I was very impressed with, was the battery life. The brand I used ended up promising 5 days of battery life on only a 1-hour charge. Now, although I didn't get exactly that, I did get 4 days on a full charge, which at least to me is more than good enough. Again, this is something that's going to change brand to brand, so I'm sure that if you go for other brands, they could offer you a little more battery life and other features. But for me, and the one that I used, 4 days on a single 1-hour charge was more than good enough. And lastly, there have been a lot of debates on whether the accuracy of a smart ring is more than that of an Apple Watch or a regular fitness tracker. And although I don't think there's one definitive answer, at least in the week-long testing that I did, I found that everything my smart ring told me was true. I even compared it to my girlfriend's Apple Watch when we did similar steps and exercise, and the answers were pretty much the same. So you're going to be getting pretty much the same accuracy in a much smaller body. So now let's talk about what it doesn't do well. And this list, although not the biggest, does have some important things to keep in mind. The first one would be that it is a ring, but it doesn't exactly feel like one. All smart rings you're going to see out there are going to be a little bulkier and heavier due to all of the tech that's actually inside the ring. Now, this really comes down to personal preference because it really matters on how you feel when you put the ring on. I, for example, didn't have too much of a problem wearing my ring, but there were some times when I felt annoyed because of how heavy and bulky it is. So do take that with a grain of salt, and at least the brand that I use, which is Nova Ring, they ended up sending out a free testing kit so you could see the size and the feel of your ring. So if you do end up going with a brand that does the same, you can test out their free testing kit for a few days, a week, or even 2 to see how you feel before making the purchase. It's also obvious that the smart ring is more so a dedicated device. It isn't like an Apple Watch or any type of smart band that's going to do many things at once. The smart ring is really dedicated to only fitness and health tracking. So if you're a person that you don't feel really cares about those health tracking metrics, then the smart ring's just not going to be for you. Like I did mention previously, depending on what model you get, there are going to be some that have subscription models, which I guess is good and bad because there's going to be some people that value their smart ring so much that they will go out there and pay the subscription model. But if you're like me who doesn't pay too much attention to it and just kind of would like to have it in the background, I definitely wouldn't be a person to subscribe to a subscription service of a smart ring. That being said, I did mention that there are many brands out there and some, like the one that I use, don't offer it. So that could be an option if you're looking to buy a smart ring without a subscription model. All right, so now let's talk about the real world experience. How does it actually feel on a day-to-day basis to be wearing a smart ring 24/7? Well, honestly, at first I was very skeptical because I wear one ring on my left ring finger and that's it. I don't wear any more and I didn't want to add any more. And I had gotten very accustomed to using my regular metallic ring. So when I saw this big bulky piece of plastic, I was very skeptical as to whether I would actually get used to wearing it. And although it isn't something that I think I'd wear 24/7, like I said, I was surprised because it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. There is obviously a period of getting used to it, but once you have it on you and you do get used to it, it's really nice to have all of your health tracking when you don't have anything on your wrist and you feel like you're not wearing anything. That to me at least is where the real value came in, because I knew that I was wearing a smart ring and a device, but I didn't really feel like I was because I didn't have to charge it. I didn't have to take a look at it. It didn't send me notifications every minute. And so it was just kind of in the background doing its job. And whenever I wanted to see any type of health data, I could just enter the app and there it was. There were only a few cons of using it, but I think honestly those cons are just the brand that decided to collaborate with me. And I do think that if you go ahead and choose other brands, you won't have those same issues that I did. So now let's talk about the big question and the title of the video. Are smart rings worth it in 2025? Well, I think this is a question that really depends on the type of person that you are, but I think an overall consensus, at least from me, would be that yes, they are worth it. I think they bring a lot of value that Apple Watches don't. What an Apple Watch does great, a smart ring can also do, but the Apple Watch requires you to charge it every single day to make sure that it's on your wrist, and sometimes using the Apple Watch or needing to have it on your wrist 24/7, especially with small activities such as showering or just being in the house, does get annoying. I believe if you're a person that likes to track fitness but doesn't really like the feel of having an Apple Watch, or you simply prefer to use real traditional watches, then yes, the smart ring is 100% gonna be for you. Now, if you did decide that the smart ring is for you, well, now you have to go down an incredibly long rabbit hole on which brand you decide to go with. Like I said, the one that I tried and the one that I had an amazing experience with was Nova Ring, so I do thank them for sending it out. But there's a lot more brands that are out there, so I do recommend for you to go do your due diligence and see exactly which brand offers you exactly what you want. All right, so that was my final verdict on whether the smart rings are worth it in 2025. If you did like the video, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I did recently just launch channel membership, so if you do want to become an exclusive member of the channel and get perks that nobody else is gonna get, go ahead and hit the join button next to the subscribe button. My socials are also going to be on screen and they're going to be linked down below. So if you want to see a BTS to my life and everything that goes on outside of YouTube, go ahead and click that link in the description. I did also just release my experience with the Nova Ring. So if that's a video you're interested in watching, there's going to be an annotation on screen right now, and it's also going to be at the end of the video. And well, I thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I guess I'll see you in the next one.